It's a very exciting one for episode 100. We finally got the main man, UK's finest export, quite possibly. Chris Brookes is on the podcast. Chris, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for hyping me up in the introduction there. I appreciate that. I wouldn't particularly describe myself as exciting or a main man, but I'm grateful.
Yeah, we've finally filled that Chris Brookes shaped hole in like our backlog. We've just spoken to basically every single one of your friends as the long con to finally get you here.
You filled that long thin hole in the wall.
This has been the thread throughout 100 episodes. Just it's really good to have you on. How is you've been in Japan now for just over 2 years, is it?
Yeah, two and a half years or so, a little bit over now. I guess it'll be 3 in February next year. So
it's safe to say you're fully acclimatized then?
I think so, yeah. The first year was kind of difficult.
Oh, I bet.
Because I was in like a short stay apartment. Because the way like visas over here work and residence cards, the Zaire cards, you can't get a residence card unless your visa's longer than 6 months. So in the beginning, I was doing 3 months and I would like keep renewing it every 3 months, like it was recurring. So I couldn't get a residence card, so I couldn't get my own apartment. There was a lot of things you can't do without one. You can't. It's difficult to join gyms, get bank accounts, things like that.
Oh, really?
But then, so I think I came. I think when I came back in February 2020, it was on re-entry of the visa that I'd had for the DO in 2019. So that visa hadn't expired and they got me a re-entry to come in. And then I think I'd renewed on a 3 months, 2 more times or 1 more time. And then they finally gave me a 6 so I could get the residence card. And then after that, I got a year and a year. So some way like that. But now, very acclimatized. I have an apartment here and stuff and all that jazz.
Great.
It's good. It's nice.
When you originally went out, how long did you have a particular time in mind for how long you're going to be out there for?
Initially DDT said a year, but I think the reason they wanted to sort of timestamp it like that was if they'd have just said in the initial thing when it was announced I was coming over, Chris Brookes is moving to Japan indefinitely. They were worried that like fans in England or people like that would be worried, or like even the fans in Japan, like that's a big commitment to make. And I think they were cautious. They didn't want to be like, oh, he's just moving here with no end in sight, and then have people worry like, oh, is he going to be okay? Is he going to cope? Is he going to be lonely or whatever? So, but I mean, when I moved here, in my mind, it was announced as a year, but it was going to be longer than that. And that was friends and stuff were aware of that. My family were aware of that.
And I suppose as well, you had a few friends out there already, but was it difficult kind of creating that new sort of sport network out there, or did you find it relatively easy?
Not really, to be honest. I think you'll often hear of people when they come over to Japan to work and stuff, foreigners and whatnot, they'll say that they perhaps found it difficult to make friends or meet people or felt like isolated or whatever. But I think due to the nature of the job that I do, I was immediately thrown in, not in like a deep end, that sounds
well,
a bit daunting, but I mean, you'll get people come over and they'll be doing, for example, like the ALT, the assistant language teacher, or they're teaching English or something like that. And then they're working in a school and they kind of end up just socializing with other English teachers, other ALTs and stuff like that. And they talk about like, oh, it's difficult to meet people and whatnot. And I think it isn't that difficult if you throw yourself into it and make an effort to meet people. I always hear about how it's difficult to meet people, and like Japanese, the culture is like, oh, people aren't so outgoing to strangers or things like that. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. Or I think if you make the effort to learn a bit of the language and stuff as well, you'll find it a lot easier and you'll integrate much easier that way. Yeah. Me and Drew Parker get drunk all the time and just wander around Shinjuku, challenging strangers to games of darts, striking up conversations.
That's certainly one way to do it.
People aren't wary or difficult to. It's not difficult to meet people. I don't think. I think people get stuck in a bubble, and then they feel like it's harder than it is, maybe. Whereas I was here in DDT. I'm the only foreigner, or especially was for the 2 years of the pandemic. So I didn't find it hard to meet people, make friends, socialize, things like that. So I never really had that period where I was feeling lonely or isolated. No.
Oh, that is really good. That is good to hear.
Yeah.
Because I mean, with the pandemic,
especially,
in particular, there's
you could see
concern.
it being a real difficulty, just like having the opportunity to get out and meet people. But yeah, obviously, luckily, DDT and Choco Pro, we're still kind of running things for the most part.
That must have felt really weird for you, because that with DDT and Choco Pro, those are ostensibly two of the only promotions that were running throughout that period. Most places there's no wrestling at all.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. And I think that in part too is a factor for not having those feelings of isolation, especially during, like you said, the start of the pandemic, where everyone was kind of like staying home, housebound, and having to deal with that. I mean, DDT was still running shows just with no fans in the buildings, and Choco Pro was obviously running as well. So I never really even had like a particularly long period of staying at home. Besides, like when you're not working, of course, and because for a period all the bars and stuff were closed and things like that. But by and large, I mean, I was still relatively busy the whole time, even at the beginning with the pandemic here. Things didn't really stop for long, not fully at least. There was always something going on still.
And are you someone do you quite enjoy your own company though, if there is like that downtime and there's nothing going on? Do you find it okay just hanging out on your own?
Oh goodness, yes. I absolutely love being alone.
Yeah, I feel you. I miss those days. I've got a young daughter now, so I'm seldom alone. But it's back in the day.
I think I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but I think doing wrestling and stuff, because even when it's not a show or something, you're still kind of constantly under a public eye or like a kind of scrutiny. Even like you can't escape it if you're on your phone.
Yeah.
Scrolling, you're constantly getting notifications and things like that. So I think I really enjoy switching off and not paying attention to stuff like that, and being alone and things, and being able to try and forget about wrestling and whatever for a little bit. So you're busy with the wrestling, and then when you do get time to be on your own, I'm not sad about it.
No, that makes sense.
And what are your kind of go-to, like I know you like a bit of gaming, but like what are your kind of go-to activities when you're just like hanging out on your own? Is there anything, like pop culture stuff that you kind of have really been digging into?
Not particularly. I go through fads. I'm very faddy with the things that I enjoy doing in my spare time. So for a while I'll be like obsessed with watching, I don't know, TV shows or something. Then I'll get into a habit of watching a few movies a day or something else. And then, I mean, recently I've started doing like some drawing and painting and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Absolutely dog shit at it, but it's fun to do. But I'll probably, get bored of that sooner or later anyway, and start something else. Reading, go through fads of liking to read a lot. So
I think it's nice just like having some stuff that's just for yourself as well, like with the kind of arts, just there's no point to it other than just to kind of the enjoyment of it and potentially working to get better for yourself. Like I think that's lovely. Like I think it's important to have those kind of little hobbies.
Right. I think recently especially that's been fun to do, because I don't feel any obligation to then have to share it with anyone, because obviously you put a lot of effort and stuff into the creative process of wrestling and things like that, but then again, like, it's constantly under scrutiny and being criticized by people, like positive and negative. But then I think recently it's been fun to do something with no interest in it being for anyone or having anyone kind of critique it or anything. It's just, I did it and I like it, and that's fine. Or I don't like it, but that's also fine.
Yeah, no, I get that completely.
I guess it's also tough having a friend in Davis who's obviously a very talented artist. Just like, no, sorry, you can never see this.
Davis is great. And he's like, it was always not frustrating. I always would try and encourage him to do more with it, because I think he's a really talented illustrator, and I think he could do a lot more than he chooses to do with it. But I also understand not wanting the pressure of doing it again on top of like you already wrestle and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I understand him not trying to do more with it, but especially during the pandemic when like in Australia there was no wrestling, I was really trying to encourage him to do more, because I think he's really good at stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. And just going back to the having moved to Japan, just really curious that having you obviously made that adjustment pretty well, but looking back, if you had that time again, do you think there's anything that you'd have done differently?
No, not really. But I try not to. No, not necessarily in that sense. I always try and have like the motto of not living with regretting anything, because you can't change things anyway, and positive or negative, whatever you did, you ended up where you are today. And if that place you are at now is good, then you don't need to regret stuff that you did before. So I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I could say like I could have made more of an effort to pick up more of the language quicker, but I mean, I wouldn't say I'd change it really, or it's all right.
You did what was right for you at the time.
Yeah, that feeling, I suppose.
How are you with the language now? Are you pretty much fluent?
No. I'm not fluent, but I am getting a lot better, especially over the last couple of months. I'm kind of finding more of like a rhythm with it now and things. Whereas I think initially just using it is quite intimidating. You're cautious of making mistakes and stuff. That's a good a way in which Drew is a lot better than me. He's much better than me at Japanese anyway, but he's a lot less worried about making mistakes with it. He'll just like go with it, and if he makes mistakes, he makes mistakes. Whereas I'll typically only say things I'm confident are going to be correct instead of chancing it and getting things wrong.
That's very much mine and Gareth's relationship, to be honest with you. I'm like Drew, I'll just give something a go and fingers crossed it works, that sort of thing.
I'm a lot more sort of measured and kind of cautious.
But yeah, I think recently I've got a lot better. There's been like a lot of good opportunity to practice, especially with people like Andrew Everett and Janella and Cara coming over. And even when we went over to Thailand recently and did the Gato move thing, I found myself playing interpreter between like the guys from Singapore or the Thai guys, because they could speak English pretty well, but not a lick of Japanese. And then Masa really didn't speak a lot of English. The same with like Kirihara. So I found like we'd go out and we'd drink and stuff, and I'd be like interpreting things back and forth between everyone. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh, I'm quite decent at this. Like I can do pretty well at this now.
I think it's good.
But I really hate speaking it on camera. I don't enjoy doing that.
Then
like
it's
the DDT press conferences and things.
Then it's for all the world to, people can kind of go back over it and kind of scrutinize it, I guess. Whereas if it's just like off the cuff, I guess getting put in those like positions where like they need you, like Chris, we need your assistance here. Like they're not going to be able to like figure out what anybody's saying without your help in that, in Thailand. You're like, oh shit, I know more than I thought.
You know more than you think you do, right? Yeah, exactly. But I still think it's quite funny that I'll see someone over here that I haven't seen in a few years, and they're surprised if we'll go out and we'll be drinking and talking and whatever. They're like, oh, you really can speak a lot of Japanese, but you don't because Drew will he'll do all his press conferences and stuff in Japanese.
That's so impressive.
And I'll always it's very impressive, but I'll still do it in English. So I think people kind of get this image that I can speak less than I can. And then when I do talk to people and I'm in like a comfortable setting, they're like, oh no, you're very good. I'm like, I still really don't feel comfortable doing it publicly. Not on camera. Sense. I don't like it.
I'm always staggered. We've had Balinaki on here quite a few times, and I'm always staggered at his grasp of like every language he can.
Oh, Aki's ridiculous, but he had like such a trial by fire with the Choco Pro thing, because literally during the first year or whatever, year and a half of the pandemic, every day it would just be Aki, Mei, Masa, maybe Sakura in Ichigaya together, and they're only going to be talking Japanese to each other. So when you think about it like that way, he's essentially getting, because he's done formal studying before too, but then with that, it's like every day, if you're with them for 5 or 6 hours or whatever, you're getting 5 or 6 hours of study essentially, because you're listening to everything they say and communicating back with them. So I think Yeah, Aki's ridiculous. He's really good. And he got like that trial by fire of the pandemic and being with those guys every day. And then Drew even as well. I mean, he joined Big Japan at first. He moved here before me. And in Big Japan, really, no one speaks English. So it was, again, kind of like a thing of learn it or don't speak to anyone. Whereas in DDT, especially at the beginning, there was like Mr. Haku, Shota speaks English, Kizo speaks English. And then a lot of the wrestlers are also, whereas in Big Japan, no one's particularly interested in learning English. There's like quite a few guys in DDT that are like actively interested in learning English. So they would want to practice English with me, whereas I would want to practice Japanese with them, but they'd want to. So it works like that. Like guys like Ueno and Mao and Takeshita, they would always be like, oh, teach me English, teach me English. I want to practice English. So it was a lot easier for me to integrate in that sense too, because there was like the support of Haku and people, and then people around me still trying to speak English. So yeah, and like Takeshita's English has got really good now.
We spoke to, I think it was back on episode 4 was the first time we had him on, and then he kind of came on again a little bit about a year later. But even in the first episode, his English was great, and we had Mr. Haku there to help him, but he was absolutely fine. And you know, I was very, very impressed. But I'm always struck by how much the Japanese wrestlers we speak to downplay their English, when actually they speak pretty good for the most part. Many of the people we've spoken to anyway. Endo being another good example, he had some pretty good English too.
I mean, it's the same thing. People are apprehensive to make a mistake. I think, especially with, you'll meet a lot of Japanese people and they'll be like, I can't speak any English. But they'll say it to you in English. They'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't speak any English. And you'll be like, you're speaking English now? And they'll be like, no, I really can't. But you're doing it. And I think it's just, that apprehension or fear of making a mistake or not understanding something. So because I mean, it's taught in schools over here in English for a few years, I think, as part of the curriculum. So most people have a basic understanding of it. Whether or not they retain that from school or whether or not they care to remember it is one thing. But but then some people just don't retain any, I guess.
No, like I don't remember any of my French from secondary school, for instance.
No, not very much.
I did German in secondary school, and I was like, when am I ever going to need to learn German? This is a waste of time. And then I ended up wrestling for WXW for like 5 years and regularly going, and I was like, would have been good to have learned some of that.
You mentioned Drew going out before you. Was that sort of part of the decision-making process in terms of you going out there, or had you already set your sights on moving out to Japan initially?
No. I'd like always dreamed of living in Japan from like when I was like 16, 17. I was like, that would be like the best thing for me as a wrestler, like the thing I'd most want to do, because I was never interested in trying to do WWE or anything like that. Stuff like that was never appealing to me. But I was like, I'd love to go to Japan, but to me, it was just impossible. It was something that would never happen. So when the opportunity came with DDT, and it was because the initial discussion I think we had, and thank goodness I went the other way with it, now knowing what we do about the pandemic and stuff, was I did my first tour and it was like 6 weeks, and then I went back for like 10 days, and then I came over for I think 7 weeks maybe for the DO. And the discussion I had with DDT was they were like, we really like you, we really want to use you more, we want to have you kind of do a thing where you'll be like in England for 1 month and then Japan for 2 months, and do that for like the whole year, so it'd be on off, like floating back and forth. And I was like, well, if we're going to do that, why don't I just come for a whole year instead? And it'll be much less of a stress with travel and stuff like that. And I mean, thank goodness I did. Or I'd have done a month or whatever it was here from February, and then gone back and been stuck for the last 2 years, I guess.
Absolutely.
And I got in like a week before everything closed as well. The timing
it was like a real kind of sliding doors kind of thing. But yeah, like, because I remember our last live show that we watched was you challenging for the Progress title up in Cardiff, and that was like the last show pre-pandemic that we made it to. So it wasn't long after that it was just like, nope, sorry, shows are up.
Everything's over. The timing was definitely very fortunate.
It really has felt like, a real shot in the arm for your sort of career in terms of like getting all the reps in? You know, you've got to wrestle so much in the last 2 years. You'd have just probably been twiddling your thumbs for like a large amount of that time, and just getting all that kind of exposure in DDT as well, I guess. Has it felt like that to you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was my mentality before making the choice to move anyway, though. I think when they were talking about either coming on or off, or the idea of coming for a whole year, I was already feeling like I was kind of stagnating in England. Like I'd got as far as I was gonna get. I was like in a comfortable position, regularly working for like the top companies and stuff, but I felt like I wasn't necessarily getting better or going to get better if I stayed there. And then when I went to DDT, it was like, oh, this is a challenge again now. This is like, I look at the people around me and I'm like, oh, the level here is so high. And I didn't think I was on that level. And it was like, oh, that's motivation to keep trying to get better and stuff. Whereas for the last maybe like year or so, when I was in England, it was just because, like I say, again, there was the talk of NXT and NXT UK and things like that, but I had no interest in doing any of that. And I was like, well, what's next? If I don't like, if I hadn't have got that opportunity with DDT and the chance to go over, there was times when I was even sort of considering like, oh, maybe I'll just do like another year and then maybe wrap it up and look at doing something else. Because I just, I wasn't particularly interested in going to America. I didn't want to do the NXT UK thing. I thought this kind of schedule in Japan was impossible, and I would never be able to find myself in a position to do it. And then I was just like, well, what is there really left to do? Like, if you're already doing Progress, you're already doing Rev Pro, you're already doing the OTTs every now and then or whatever. It's like, oh, what's next? And I was like, I don't think there is anything next otherwise. So I was like, I don't know. Yeah. But no, all worked out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, you know, it's funny to think, you know, if, again, that sliding doors moment, if you'd gone the other way and been like, oh, you know, let's give NXT UK a go. In hindsight, you know, unfortunately, very much made the right decision, it seems.
Well, I mean, I don't begrudge anyone.
No, of course.
Who took that opportunity or wanted to take that opportunity. And I think you'll always get negativity and the thing of like, oh, well, look at it now, it's finished. And it's like, well, but it's finished, but the people who decided to do it were able to make a living for the those 3-4 years or whatever it's been now. And especially during the pandemic, when there was no wrestling, they were still able to make an income and things like that. So I mean, if it was people's choice to do that, good for them, I guess. I mean, if they were happy doing it, good for them. It wasn't for me, but
because we always, like, Liam and I were always chatted, just like, it must be so frustrating, like the schedule, like seemingly wrestling so little. You know, if it's something you love to do, not getting to do it, you know, multiple times a week must be kind of a bit of a bummer, I guess. But you know, you're getting that training and you're getting that paycheck, I guess. But yeah, like you just kind of got to go out to DDT and wrestling like multiple times a week. And then more if you wanted with Choco Pro, I guess.
For me, yeah, like I like wrestling, so I like wrestling all the time if I can. And I know it's not the same for everyone, obviously, and depending on your career, how long it is and stuff like that. Obviously, some people, they do get to a point where they'd rather do less and make more money, which I understand. Like I can appreciate that, but for me, it's like, any day of the week, if I could be wrestling instead, I'd rather be wrestling than not wrestling.
No,
so
that's a nice thing.
I like to try and wrestle as much as possible and be busy and things.
Do you know what it was? Do you know what it was that brought you to the attention of DDT? Like, was there kind of one thing, or was it like kind of a cumulative thing?
I don't know necessarily which came first. We did the Fight Club Pro Project Tokyo show in 2019, January 2019 at Korakuen, and then I think it was about maybe March or April, maybe March. DDT contacted Fight Club, offered me and Lycos the same tour together in the beginning, They wanted us to come over as a tag team and do that first tour that I did in June 2019. And then obviously Lycos got injured, retired and whatnot, like all within like a real quick space of time. And I think initially I actually pitched to DDT. I was like, oh, Lycos can't make it. He's hurt or whatever. He's not going to be okay to do it. And I was like, do you want someone else to come? Because in my mind, I was like, especially at that time, I think really pigeonholed in as like a tag team wrestler. I didn't think I had a lot to offer as a singles wrestler. So I was like, do you want someone else to come? There's like, I think I suggested Lucky Kid because I was like, oh, we're doing like the Schadenfreude thing together at the moment. So, and they were like, no, you can just come over as a singles wrestler. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, my whole thing is kind of that I'm a tag team wrestler. And then like the first thing they announced me was, oh, he's going to challenge for the KOD openweight belt against the winner of Endo and Takeshita. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. What am I going to do?
Mate, talk about being thrown in the deep end.
But then when I came over for that first tour, I think early on I went out with Takeshita somewhere. He invited me out to dinner with him. And he was saying that it was his suggestion. He pitched to Takagi to bring CCK over, which is why last week or whatever it was for his anniversary show, he wanted to finally tick that match off his bucket list because I think he was either into what we were doing at the time or saw what we were doing on the Fight Club show and wanted to have that in DDT. But I mean, also Takagi-san came to the Fight Club Korakuen show too. He was like backstage and stuff, and I met him there the first time. So I don't know which came first or how it all came about, but glad it did happen.
Yeah, just when we've talked to Takeshita, like he's talked about kind of scouting international talent like Royce from Australia in the past and other people. So it seems like he casts a real eye all around the world of wrestling for like interesting talent.
Yeah, he's always watching wrestling and he's always like watching stuff from overseas and things. And I think he's really switched on and has his finger on the pulse. I mean, Andrew Everett came over recently and that was Takeshi. Why can't I say that? Takeshita's suggestion.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's always watching and always recommending people to the office to bring over.
Must be quite nice as well. Now you're getting, now the travel pathways are open. You're getting more guys and girls coming across from the UK scene. You mentioned Lycos. We got Kara there at the second. Alex Windsor's doing bits with Tokyo Joshi Pro and Rio as well, for that matter. Are you involved at all in that process? Do you are you able to make some suggestions, or is that down to DDT's own scouting?
Yeah, I guess so. Rio and Alex Windsor for Tokyo Joshi, they were suggestions that I made to the office. And I don't know if they'd seen them previously or already been thinking about it, but they asked, who would you recommend as like girls from the UK to come over? And those two were on the list. And then Kara, actually, he first got suggested to DDT by Mao 3 years ago.
Really?
When Mao was in England, he did an attack show and he filmed Kara's entrance and sent it to Takagi-san. He was like, oh, this wrestler's really interesting. You should bring him over to DDT. And then even when I was like going over there doing my first tour, Takagi was talking about bringing over Kara. And I was like, he's really good. But obviously they had like their schedule lined up. It was, I did the summer tour and then something else. And then I did the winter tour, which was the DO leading into when I was going to move over there in 2020. And then I think Bailey came for like a week or two. And I think Kara was probably next on the list of someone that they were going to bring over until the pandemic hit. And then the whole time they were just like, oh shit, we still want to use him. Like it would regularly come up when like talking about like, oh, a thing's going to open yet. Takagi would always be like, I still want to bring Kara Noir over. And I think, so Mao was the first person that suggested him. But I obviously, when Takagi-san, anytime we would mention it, would be like, yeah, he's great. He's really good. You should definitely get him over. And then the timing was quite funny. I was actually having a conversation with Takagi and Mao a few months ago at like a DDT show about how they wanted to bring Kara over again. And then I think I spoke to Kara a little bit afterwards and he was like, oh, I still really want to come to Japan, like just without prior knowledge. And I was like, they were talking about it like 2 days ago. Yeah. I think they're probably going to send you an offer very soon. And then I think they got in touch with him like a few days after that.
Oh, yeah.
arrange this tour and things. So worked out nicely.
You love to see it.
That is nice. I kind of think the way you and Drew have done it, it's a bit like what you get in football, where you get, most English players play their whole career in England, but you get a few people that go off to Spain or go off to Italy, and they sort of gain that experience and then come back. Do you think sort of what you've done and what Drew's done will give more folks from the UK sort of an impetus to try and stay for a bit longer in Japan or a different country in general and actually kind of embed themselves in a promotion elsewhere?
Maybe. I mean, only speaking from my experience, it's worked out really well for me, but I understand too that that kind of style of touring isn't necessarily for everyone. A lot of wrestlers have other jobs, or they have relationships or family, kids or whatever, and like wouldn't want to do that same sort of thing. But I think if there was any young wrestler who wanted to try and do something like that, it's definitely something I'd encourage them to do. I think it's been invaluable for me, an invaluable learning experience, and I think I've been able to get a lot better by being here for so long and doing it. But yeah, I appreciate it's not for everybody perhaps, but if anyone sees me in Durham, whatever, and they think, oh, I could probably try that, yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. I recommend it.
Well, should we pause here in terms of wrestling and jump on to our silly questions if you'll indulge us for a minute?
Okay.
So it's a little section of the interview that tends to generate some controversy, particularly this first question. So what is your favorite pizza topping?
Favorite pizza topping? It's a very boring answer. I like a standard pepperoni best.
So it's a
with
safe
dips.
answer. You don't want the drama.
With the dips.
Yeah.
But the dips are they're the key ingredient.
What's
your go-to?
I like to, because in England, when you get Domino's pizza, you can get the hot buffalo, the honey mustard, the garlic and herb one, the barbecue. And the fun thing for me is having kind of a plain pizza and alternating between dips and getting those different tastes, different flavor combinations each bite, which is a very upsetting thing about Domino's pizza in Japan, is they don't have any dips.
Oh,
for
wow.
the pizza.
What?
I don't. Yeah, Domino's Japan, every pizza shop, they're all dipless. If you get a Pizza Hut, you can order a small sachet of green chili sauce, but that's it really. Domino's, they'll give you some barbecue sauce in a little sachet if you buy some chicken nuggets, but you can't get it with a pizza. Can't add it to your Uber order, and it's been very upsetting for me for the last 2.5 years, to be honest.
I'm just imagining you with like a fridge just entirely full of condiments now, just like for pizza.
You're absolutely not wrong. My fridge is literally just beer and condiments. Beer and condiments. And there's actually currently in there a KFC box, like a KFC, the regular open out box. And it's just entirely full of dips, because I don't know why, because they usually don't do it. But I was on Uber Eats one time, and for whatever reason, you can actually add the barbecue sauce and the honey mustard to your cart. So I added about 20 of each, and they sent them all just in a big box. And now I keep it in the fridge. And if I eat pizza or something, I'll use those.
You sell those on the black market by the sounds of it. Yeah.
Because the barbecue sauce in stores, it's not really the same. It's not as good. And you can't really get a good bottled honey mustard in stores either. And then there is a pizza shop near where I live where you can order a slice or two, and they're like really big slices, and they have like a hot sauce that you can buy from there. So I got a bottle of that. Got a bottle of that hot sauce, box full of barbecue and honey mustard, mayonnaise, ketchup, Tabasco sauce. That's about it.
You got all the important.
I wish there was garlic and herb, but I've never found it anywhere. I just don't think it exists.
You have to scoop some up on your UK tour and then export it back.
No, I'll have to fill my suitcase with it, or send a bunch over.
Anything to declare?
Yes.
Oh, and you can't do barbecue base on pizzas here.
Oh, really?
Which I think these things combined is why my pizza order has become so boring, because there's like a lot of restrictions. When I was in England, I would always get the Domino's, and I'd get the crust where it's like layered with the garlic and herb sauce.
Yeah.
I get that crust, but change it for a barbecue base.
Mhm.
And then I'd get meatballs and sausage on it. And then the garlic flakes on the top, or the chili flakes. And then I'd have the dips with it as well.
Oh, geez. So
That
you
was my
really have
go-to
been
then.
boiled down then
Yeah.
as a result of this.
Well, yeah, because here it's dipless pepperoni, no barbecue bases. And then even the pizza toppings they do have are a bit bizarre, like that potato one that they do, potato mayonnaise or whatever
Mhm.
it
That's
is.
the one that May was telling us about. Yeah, it sounded interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm not into that. No, thank you. No potato mayonnaise for me. They do I think, what is it? A teriyaki, not teriyaki. Teriyaki chicken or beef. And it comes with seaweed and stuff on it. I have no interest in that.
A bridge too far.
So yeah, I'm quite fussy now with the pizza. It just has to be a plain cheese, pepperoni, and then something to dip it in. That's pretty good. Relating to Choco Pro, we ordered some pizza the one time. We were having a little get together in the second room. But while we were doing the get together in the second room, I think May and Shea and someone were doing a stream, like one of their night streams in the other room. So we order some pizza and we order one, and it's like pepperoni. That's the one I'm going to eat. And then we order another one, it's a bunch of vegetables or whatever, or potato or something. And we're like, oh, they're streaming in there. It'd be nice to give them a bit of the pizza. Someone should take some in and offer it. So they take the pizza in, and then we keep on drinking and carrying on or whatever. I'm like, I haven't had a slice of that pepperoni pizza yet. I want some. So I go in there and Chie's eating the entire thing. And I was like, Chie, that was my pizza. I was offering you a slice.
Incredible.
And her response was, "Gomen, dakedo oishikatta." Like, oh, I'm sorry, but it was delicious. And I was like, well, I know it was delicious. It was my pizza. I wanted to eat it. And then she was like, "Hontoni gomen, demo oishikatta desu." I'm so sorry, but it was delicious. And I was like, yeah, well, your enjoyment of it doesn't make me feel any better about the fact that you ate it all. But Cheers a fiend.
I love the
both pizza and chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just engulfs them.
It's where all the
quite
energy
horrifying.
comes from.
That's it.
Just
like who
That's the secret.
who let her have a sword?
I don't know, but every time she whips it out, I think that's a dreadful idea.
I'm about
especially
to lose
in
my-
Nichigaya, where it's already such a small space with so much broken stuff in it, and then she is constantly like clanging the light fittings and
Incredible.
it's like, what are you doing? Cheers, and then she's a character. That's for sure.
Yeah.
She's a character, but terrifyingly is not a character. Chie is 100% Chie
Yeah, just
in real life,
that's who she is.
which is alarming.
How has this been allowed to happen?
She's scary, especially when she drinks alcohol.
Oh no.
can't even imagine.
She soon is falling off chairs and just crying on the floor and being overly emotional. It's like the end, like when they'll play Janken sometimes, and she'll get really emotional about Janken at the end of a show and start crying. And I'm sure, like, there's even perhaps sometimes people who are like, "Oh, she's putting it on a little bit. She's like trying to make it more dramatic." No, that's how quick the switch is. She'll be drinking and then just think of something slightly sad and start welling up.
Oh,
And then the next thing she's sitting on the floor and everyone's like, "Chie, are you all right? Come on. You've had 3 sips of an apple sour. Get up."
Oh, no.
Dramatically collapsing. Those like falls that she does during Janken, she'll do when she's drunk too. Just off a chair.
Just
You're like, what are you doing?
Throwing herself around.
She's a ball of danger
That's a
to
very good
herself
description.
and everyone else.
All the more reason to like her for those that are like distant. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. She's great. Couldn't be around her every
No.
day. She's good in doses.
oh dear. Yeah, she's someone I think we'd love to speak to sometime in the future. Like she seems a lot of fun.
I don't know if we do the 7
Like
a.m.
that.
slot.
No.
Yeah, I think we need to.
We'd need to have a bit more energy.
7 a.m. slot might be a good time to catch her. She's usually quite sleepy when she first arrives for like a Choco Pro morning show. So maybe that's probably the ideal time.
That's the one.
Yeah, when
yeah.
she's tired and she'll be a bit more manageable.
Well, she's had like her triple espresso.
She doesn't. I've never seen her even drink an energy drink. I don't know
Really?
why she's so hyper.
Oh dear.
Doesn't drink soda. Doesn't
Hmm.
drink energy drinks. Don't know. Never drinks coffee. I don't think.
Gosh, wow.
It's just the secret to her power is housing Domino's pizzas that aren't hers.
Oh, she's very good at that.
So next sort of question along these lines is, what's your go-to 7-Eleven order? Like if you're just like
7-Eleven.
hungover, need some snacks.
I'd never be caught dead in a 7-Eleven.
No, what is your?
I'm a Lawson or a Family Mart man.
Okay, from your go-to convenience store, what is your snack order?
Depends. Family Mart right now, they do the crispy chicken, not the family chicken. The crispy chicken, it's more like a chicken tender. It's pretty dreadful, the basic one, but they do a habanero hot one right now that is like spicy batter. It's kind of red. I think I tweeted it a few days ago when I was eating it before a DDT bus. That's good. And then the Family Mart, the tuna mayonnaise maki rolls, the ones that you like roll up, not the onigiri. They're really good too. But their onigiri is great as well, or their soy rice onigiri, the more soft one rather than the crispy seaweed. That's good. And then Lawson, karaage-kun is good. What else is good there? Their tuna mayonnaise onigiri is pretty good too. They've got a new flavor, steak sauce karaage-kun at the moment, like the fried chicken bites. That's pretty decent. And then what else is good in the different conveniences? Lawson has really good beef jerky. Family Mart has a pretty good hashed potato. And Family Mart will regularly have interesting flavors of the soft buns as well. Lawson's soft buns, they're pretty boring. They do pizza, they do pork. That's like it. But Family Mart, they'll do collaborations with the Coco Curry shop, and they'll have like curry ones, spicy chicken. They're pretty decent.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Convenience expert.
It's amazing the quality of sort of convenience store snack foods over there, by the sounds of things.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. But I don't like 7-Eleven.
No.
I don't like anything they do. I find their snack menu very boring. I don't like their fried chicken. They have no kind of chicken bite option. Family Mart have the poke chicken, which is like their version of Lawson's karaage-kun, like the chicken bites. 7-Eleven, they don't have anything, and I don't respect
so they're dead
to you. Yeah, pretty much. Family chicky's okay sometimes, but again, I don't really like the plain one. I feel like it doesn't have much taste. They did one once with garlic cheese in. That was really good.
Garlic cheese.
That was probably a much longer and more complicated answer about convenience stuff.
I like that you have
something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, I like that this is something you have strong feelings on.
Yeah, wrestling, I'm really neither here nor there.
Ambivalent.
Convenience store food, yeah. A lot of strong feelings. And I'm still upset about the fact in Japan, when I first came here, you could get Red Bull, but not in a can, but in a can bottle. Have you seen that before? It's like a tin bottle. It was like a bit bigger than a can and a screw top. And that was the best. I don't know what it was about the particular type of metal that was used to make the can, but it just stayed colder for longer. And I would drink those every day. And then for some reason, without word or notice, one day they were gone from all the conveniences. And they finished doing the metal screw cap version of Red Bull. And it was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, this shop's just sold out. And then I went to another and I was like, there's not anywhere. Where has it gone? I tried Googling it. I was like, have they finished it? Like, where is it? And I would like ask people on the DDT roster, where have the screw Red Bull cans gone? I haven't seen one in weeks. And he'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I haven't seen one in a while either. And I was like, why has no one noticed? This is dreadful.
Sounds like you're trapped in an episode of the Twilight Zone. Like nobody's noticed this huge thing that's changed.
No one has noticed. No one else cares.
It's like
I was the only person. I mean, I was probably the only person drinking it, and that's why it's gone.
No, it makes me think of Orangina over here. We used to get it in the knobbled glass bottle, and now it's no. And then they just changed it. It doesn't taste as good.
Doesn't taste as good. That's right. Red Bull from a can doesn't taste as good as it did from a screw cap tin bottle. It really doesn't. But the same applies to Monster. You can still get screw top Monster, and I think that tastes better than a full can. Don't know why. Don't know why.
There's got to be something to it. Something's going on there. I feel like we
need to understand the science.
Picked up on a story here, yeah, for sure.
I'm going to Google it again after now. I'd forgotten about it too. I still need answers.
Back on the case.
Yeah.
How about karaoke? Have you embraced karaoke culture since you've been out there? And if so, what's your song?
Oh god, yeah. Me and Drew always end up in karaoke when we're drunk. It's always go to an izakaya first, get a bit hammered, and then end up in karaoke, where Drew will inevitably sing the same 3 songs every time, which much to my detest, because I don't particularly like any of the songs he sings. I'm trying to remember what the 3 are now. It's always Jeremy by Pearl Jam, Creep by Radiohead, and what else does he always sing? Oh, Jaded by Aerosmith.
Not the most uplifting selection.
He's not a very uplifting person when he's drunk. When he's drunk and emotional on the karaoke. But those 3 songs, especially the Pearl Jam one, because the Pearl Jam song, Jeremy, are you familiar with it?
Yes.
It doesn't particularly ebb and flow much. It doesn't have a lot in terms of variety. It's literally just Drew bawling for 4 minutes. Jeremy spoke in class today.
It's real just mumbly as well, but that's like Eddie Vedder, full stop.
I don't hate Pearl Jam, but I do hate Drew Parker's rendition of Pearl Jam. And I do hate his rendition of Creep by Radiohead as well, because it's just so tragically sad when you're like already you're already like 6 beers deep and you're like, oh, let's go do karaoke, that'll be fun. And in the lobby they always have like the baskets where you can get your tambourines and your maracas. And you're like, we're gonna have a good time. And then the second you get in there, you're on the phone ordering the drinks. Yeah, we'll take 2 beers, please. Oh wait, no, Drew doesn't want beer, he's too drunk. A beer and a lemon sour, please. And then before you know it, dun, 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 creeps up on the screen again. He's like firing up the microphone. It's like, oh god, here we go.
Oh gosh, that's so great.
So you don't have like a go-to. You're just kind of like, how am I feeling?
Oh, my go-to. Yeah. My go-to is always "Paradise by the Dashboard Light" by Meatloaf, which is another sad story of something that is always tragically cut short. There's no karaoke. I think actually there's not. No, I found one once. I found one karaoke shop where they had the full version of the song, and then every other version of it I've done in any karaoke shop in Japan always gets to the part where they're about to. Are you familiar with this song?
I'm not familiar with this song.
No,
I'm gonna have to go listen to it after this. It's
like a running narrative of like this young couple, and they're finally gonna do it today. They're gonna go all the way together for the first time. And there's a part in the song where it like breaks down, and as they're about to get there, they're about to get to the moment. It switches, and it has like a baseball commentary narrative over the top of it, being like, "Oh, he's gonna make it." And then after that, the woman puts the brakes on and she's like, stop, before we go any further, you've got to tell me if you're going to love me forever. And there's like a whole back and forth and another like 3 minutes. And every time it's building to that big crescendo. And then the song just fades out. And the screen comes up, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. And I'm like, no, it's not finished. You didn't get to the best part. But it's a good participation song, that one, because it's a constant back and forth between the man and the woman in the song. So you can assign your side. I'll give Drew the woman's parts and I'll do the man, and then we'll just go back with each other.
Oh, fantastic.
Great karaoke song, fun, a positive topic about love, big nice dramatic ballad. I think that's a good choice, whereas Drew just sings mopey shit.
He's working
sad
through
songs.
some stuff.
Clearly. No, so I'm trying to think if there's a positive song that Drew will sing. Mao loves to sing "I Miss You" by Blink-182. That's Mao's favorite karaoke song.
I do think it sort of it's pretty revealing.
I definitely have a video. I won't show you. I definitely have a video of Drew and Mao singing karaoke together, shirtless. I'll add, and I'm gonna.
Is there any other way?
And I'm gonna. Evidently not. And I'm gonna check it and see what they're singing, because they're quite enthusiastic about it. So it must have been something positive. Let's have a listen. They're singing "Want You Bad" by The Offspring.
Oh, incredible. Classic.
Oh, great.
Somewhat more positive for Drew, but
it's getting there. Yeah.
That's great.
Don't know why, but inevitably, depending on who you go to karaoke with, if it's Drew or Mao or Imanari as well, they're always going to end up tops off in the karaoke booth for whatever reason. Another good choice is "Come On Eileen," but that inevitably is a tops off song.
Yeah,
that's like
family, jumping up and down.
Yeah,
family party circa 2002 at the working men's club. Your aunties and uncles are there, and "Come On Eileen" comes on. The ties are coming off. They're going around their heads.
Wait, yeah.
You get that sort of walk up to the floor like that. It's just so
Incredible.
That confident strut from Aunt Jane. Oh, this is her moment. She's waited all night. She's waited all night for Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Yeah. I'd say.
Waited all night for this. Now her time has come.
You mentioned about the drawing earlier and darts actually, but are there any other hobbies that you're particularly into that people might not know about?
No, I don't think so. Playing video games, reading, playing darts, always playing darts, drinking a lot, most days. If I had to assign something as my number one hobby, I would say wrestling, but technically that's my job and I get paid to do it. So in terms of like what would be the number one hobby, it's probably consuming beer.
What's your go-to? Yeah. Have you got something in particular?
What's the go-to Japanese beer?
My favorite Japanese beers are either Asahi Super Dry or Sapporo Kuro Label, Black Label, which is just like the basic can of Sapporo or Asahi that you would get, really. I think they're my favorite two. And then obviously there's a Kirin. Kirin's okay. I don't like it as much. Premium malts is pretty decent. Yebis beer, that's okay, but a bit of a strong taste, but it costs more. Everyone's like, that's the premium one, but I'm not really that into it. And then what's the Okinawa beer? Orion beer is good. I really like that, but you only get it in certain places. I mean, you can get it in convenience, but draft Orion you only get in certain shops like Okinawa style izakayas. Premium malts I'm not that keen on typically, but it's the beer they serve at Abisco and they serve it in an iced glass.
Oh wow.
And it's really delicious there. So
nice.
If you're in Tokyo, eventually go to the DDT Izakaya Abisco and have a Nama biru, and they'll give you a really frosty cold glass of the premium malts.
So that is
but yeah, I would say Super Dry or Black Label Sapporo.
Going to the DDT bar is pretty high on the list. I'm getting married next year and the honeymoon's going to be to Japan. So I'm going to be dragging my poor then wife to the DDT, who's not a big wrestling fan, to the DDT bar.
Well, I don't think the bar or the izakaya, which one are you going to drag it to? Or both? DDT has 3 bars.
Just everywhere I possibly can. That and the Minoru Suzuki shop, and just anywhere I can wrestling related, as well as many shows as possible.
They have the Abisco is the downstairs. It's like in the basement. That's the izakaya, like the food one, where it's like a lot of the menu is pork based, and gote hashi and obi and kudo-san, they all work there. And then on the 8th floor of the same building is Dropkick, which is just the drinks bar. There's no food. You can order food up from downstairs, but that's where like you'll always see the young guys doing the drinking events and stuff like that. And then Swan Dive is over in Shinjuku Nichome, and that's Mikey Naue, the ring announcer. He's like the head one there, and that's more of like a classy bar. They have like loads of nice fancy whiskeys.
Yeah, want some Japanese highballs.
Cute little plates of like fancy food. I never go to Swan Dive.
too
Not fancy enough.
So I imagine as well,
it's too classy for me.
I imagine as well you would have enjoyed the beers out in Thailand as well. They're known for some pretty good beers out there.
Oh god, yeah, and the style of drinking it, the ice beer was mind blowing, but so good. Like you get the bin beer, bottled beer, the big bottle of it, and then a bucket of ice, and then you get your glasses, and everyone
it's so good.
Piece of ice in there, fill it with the beer. Singer or Chang, or what was the other one? Singer, Chang, and I feel like there was one more.
Is it Tiger?
I don't remember the name of it.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I was in Thailand. But yeah, the
Thai beer. I'm googling it. Singer, Chang. Oh no, maybe it was just those two. Yeah.
Those are like the big boys, aren't they?
They're the popular two. They're both great, especially with ice.
Had you been to?
But you can't really get those over here.
Had you been to Thailand before? Was that your first before this recent?
No, that was my first time here. First time in Thailand. Really fun, and especially Bangkok, such like a energetic, bustling place, like so loud and vibrant.
It's wild,
all the time
isn't it?
you're going around the streets. It's crazy, but it's so nice. Everyone was so friendly and warm and welcoming there too. I think it kind of reignited my desire to go traveling again and stuff, because I'd kind of been all the bucket list places as a wrestler that you think about going. I was like, oh, you know, when I started wrestling, I want to go America, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Japan, obviously. And I've done like those now, and it's like, oh, it's not particularly anywhere I'm like particularly keen on going. But I did want to go to Thailand because like the Gato Move Association.
Yeah, of course.
And then when I did it, I was like, oh no, this is fucking fun. I want to go more places like this that I wasn't necessarily thinking of going, but I went there and saw all this wonderful stuff and had a great time. So I think, yeah, Thailand was super fun, really fun.
There is that little kind of growing scene in Southeast Asia, isn't there? Like I think the Philippines have got quite a biggish promotion, and
Singapore.
I want to say there's one in Vietnam. It's certainly in Singapore, yeah. So.
I think Masa's wrestled in Vietnam before, and then I think Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore they have a couple there, and then So I think now like that's my next kind of goal in terms of place I want to go. I want to get around to more of that scene and see more of what's going on there, more than like I've done, I feel like, stuff in Europe before. Not completed. I mean, I'm going back to WXW soon. But in terms of like, there's no way that I've got in mind as like the next place I'd like to go in Europe. Like there isn't really anywhere I'm considering or thinking like I'd like to go there. I guess Italy. I've never wrestled in Italy before, and I know there's some wrestling over there. But I mean, I did Germany and Paris. I did Paris once, and so
yeah.
Sorry. I waffled off.
No,
trailed off.
Not at all. What about Mexico? Have you wrestled there before?
Yeah, I did one show there in 2018, maybe. Progress were doing their coast to coast tour where they did like that 1 week tour of America. And that was like Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Seattle, Detroit, Chicago. And then me and Lycos and British Strong Style got the offer to fly in a day earlier and then go straight to Mexico, to Tijuana, and do a show for the Crash. So we did that there. And then I was literally in Mexico for about, I don't know, 12 hours maybe. Like arrived,
a real flying visit.
Went to this wrestling museum, did the show, and then immediately we went back up to California, and then flew California to Philadelphia, landed in the morning of the Progress Philadelphia show, and went straight to the venue to go and do that. So that was hard, but I did that one show in Mexico, ticked it off the list. So
this is an addendum to the silly questions, but I wondered with the association with calamari, are you actually a calamari fan, or is it just has it just been a branding thing?
Not really. Not particularly. I definitely will eat it a lot more now than I ever did when I lived in England. I'll have like, I quite enjoy like a yakisoba with some squid in there, or a bit of octopus. Or if I go to Osaka, I'll always try and eat a bit of takoyaki or something like that. So I'll eat a bit now, dabble in it a little bit, but not especially a fan now.
Got to protect them.
So that was my excuse when I first came over, because when I was living in England prior, I was never someone who would eat squid or octopus. I didn't really like it at all. So my first argument to kind of refuse it when people came over and they'd be like, "Do you want this?" I'd be like, "No, it's cannibalism. I can't. I can't eat my own kind." But then I started, and I was like, "It's actually not that bad." So I'll eat a little bit of it. Not a real fan of it with the sushi. I find the chewiness of it just off-putting.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's okay.
So we touched on sort of goals in terms of internationally. What else is on your mind in terms of wrestling that you'd like to achieve, or be it in DDT or elsewhere? Sort of what are the sort of short and long-term goals that are still outstanding?
I think now really just in terms of like next week going over, not next week, in 3 days going back to England and doing Progress and stuff, like it's fun for me to do it this time because it's doing it with Massa and doing the CDK thing, and that's sort of a new challenge, a new flavor to kind of introduce that to people who might not have seen it before. And I think if people see it and are into it or like it, and then that in turn helps get more eyes on DDT or Choco Pro, get that move, that'd be like really nice. Same with like WXW. I think it's the third or fourth time maybe that I've done tag league. So I mean, if it was just doing it again under the same conditions as before, I don't think it would be particularly interesting. But I think getting to do it with Massa and with this new thing, it's fresh feeling, I guess. So I think I want to do more CDK overseas stuff. I think that would be fun. Kind of the same thing I feel like applies as far as I'm concerned with like America. Like I'd love to go over and do some CDK stuff in America, or like a Gato Move tour, or like something with DDT. But I think if I just went over as a singles person, it's not like it's not particularly motivating for me since I've done it before. It feels like something that I've done before, so I want to keep obviously trying to do new things. So I'd like to do something like that in America for sure. And then long term, just stick with DDT, keep trying to help raise the profile of DDT, or like at least the international profile. Same with like the little bits for like Tokyo Joshi and stuff with the English commentary. It's like fun to do stuff like that if it can help make it more accessible for someone. So I mean, future goals really just more of the same. Doing more of the same.
No, that's good, because it does feel like both all the brands you mentioned are brands. It's such a horrible word, isn't it? All the companies you mentioned are all on the up. You know, DDT and Tokyo Joshi getting that sort of AEW link up exposure, which I think is helping. And same with Gato Move to a lesser extent. But I just feel like that, you know, my heart is with Gato Move. I love that. And so that feels like it's sort of a more organic process. Like that would just kind of get bigger and bigger over time. But I noticed you worked the AEW video game launch shows in Japan. Was that what was that like? Was that good fun? And was there any sort of likelihood of any further integration with AEW and DDT, do you think?
It was fun to do. I mean, I think I only found out about it like 4 days before, so it was quite a surprise. I didn't really have much time to think about it, but then it's one of those things where it's cool to do. Like, it's nice to do because it's like, oh, it's like an AEW branded show and an AEW branded ring and stuff. But then it's at like a video games convention, and the majority of the audience, like, either there was like some DDT fans that knew it was happening and stuff like that, so they came along and watched. And then primarily, it's just people who have no concept or real prior interest in wrestling. They're just at the games convention because they wanted to go see all the try out new demos, things like that, get freebies, and then like, oh, there's just a wrestling ring there, we'll go and watch it. So it's like, it's interesting. It's good for me to do because obviously just that like association is good for your profile, I suppose, your metaphorical stock, as it were. But then I mean, in terms of doing it, it was doing wrestling for people who have no idea what wrestling is mostly. So it's not comparable to like, it's hard to quantify because it's like, oh, you did an AEW thing kind of, but similarly not really at all, because it like isn't for an AEW audience. There was a couple of like office people there, and I think, and obviously I got to wrestle Christopher Daniels, and that was really cool and fun, and he was great to wrestle. So the people that I did meet that were from AEW, they were all nice, they were all cool. I don't know if it necessarily is like any indication of something that would lead to something else. I haven't really thought a lot about it either. It was just like, oh, that's nice to do. That's fun to do. That was cool. I got to wrestle Christopher Daniels, so that's cool. And I wrestled Takeshita, so always fun. But and
you know, as a video game fan yourself, did you get to walk the floor of the convention? Did you have a little wander around?
No.
Oh no.
No, I didn't. I mean, I like playing video games, but I'm not
not that caliber of nerd.
Not that, but like not enthusiastic to that level. Like, I like the games I like to play. I like playing Apex. I like playing Overwatch. But in terms of just like going around and getting a picture with Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff, like, got no interest.
No, same.
The two days. I'm trying to think. Actually, what was the second day? The first day, when I wrestled Christopher Daniels, because the games convention was like wherever it was, and then afterwards, because I was on the earlier show, I quickly got changed, left, and I went to Massa's barbecue that he was having, and got drunk afterwards. And then the next day, in Ichigaya, there was the Choco Pro show in the morning, and then Lycos was leaving in the night. He was getting his flight or whatever. So again, I wrestled, quickly got changed, got back on the train, went to Ichigaya, and just had a few beers there. So no, I saw no video games things. I got no samples. I just went there, wrestled, quickly got changed, and then buggered off both days.
Too much of a social life.
Too busy. Yeah. It's too much. How can I go around looking at video games when there's beer on the table waiting to be drunk?
Very true.
Those are the options I had to weigh up. So I was like, well, beer wins. Sorry, SpongeBob. Sorry, SpongeBob. I didn't get to sample the latest SpongeBob game. The SpongeBob booth was like right next to the ring.
Incredible.
I think it's a THQ game as well.
Oh my goodness!
Huge SpongeBob and people playing something. I didn't see it.
You've been very generous with your time. I massively appreciate it. Final question for you. You've had so many tag teams over the years and kind of revolutionized the way that I think of tag teams, because you could previously throw two people together and I think that's not really a team. But it turns out if you just make a calamari related name, all of a sudden you do view it as a team. Tropper Calamari being a good example of that. So given all the different people you've tagged with, who's sort of left on the list of people that you'd like to make a calamari-based team with?
Who is left? Indeed. It's hard to think now because I've teamed with.
You have teams with a lot of people.
Not even like under calamari puns, but like so many of the ridiculous people you could think to shout out at a moment like this. DDT is so ridiculous. I've just actually teamed with them. Like the likes of like Super Delphin or Minoru Suzuki or Atsushi Onita. It's like, yeah, I've done all those. Who do I want to team with? Great Sasuke for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's still someone that I've not wrestled or been in a ring with that I'd like to be. Taka Michinoku would be fun because I'm a big Michinoku Pro from like the 90s nerd. And I've got a poster on the wall. I'll check. Also, the Dick Togo, that'd be fun.
Nice.
I did book Men's Tale on my own produce show, but I wasn't in the match with him. So
that was cool to see, actually. That was really cool to see.
That was, because when I was like about 16, 17, 18, they were doing like the whole men's club thing in Big Japan at the time, and they would do their own produce shows and stuff. And it felt like a continuation of like that Michinoku Pro style with guys like Shinobu and Hagane Shino, Madoka as he was then, stuff like that. So that was really fun to be able to do on that show. I'd love to wrestle Kai and Tai. I don't want to team with him. I want to have a match against Kai and Tai. I want to tag with like Takeshita and Ueno and Masa. We'll make a 4-piece and we'll get which Kai and Tai members can we get together? Taka, Dick Togo, Teo. Funaki? Is Funaki still wrestling? Sure, Funaki.
Yeah, we could. I'm sure.
He's in America, right? Kaz Hayashi's around.
Yeah.
Shiryu. Get him in. That'd be fun. Yeah, I'd like to do that.
There we go.
Nice. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And best of luck for the remainder of the year, the UK tour, and everything into the future. Hopefully we can catch up with you again at some point.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.